Welcome to aquatic biology. Imagine standing waist deep in a fast-flowing torrential river. You would immediately feel the immense power of the water trying to push you downstream. Today, we are going to explore how tiny hill stream fishes survive in even harsher conditions in the Himalayas. We will uncover the brilliant biological engineering that allows them to conquer the relentless physical forces of moving water. Now that we understand the extreme nature of this environment, we must ask why any fish would choose to live here. The answer lies in survival and resource availability. These mountain streams are incredibly rich in dissolved oxygen due to the constant churning of water over rocks. Furthermore, the extreme water velocity acts as a natural barrier, keeping larger predatory fishes away. The rocks are also covered in a rich layer of algae, providing an abundant food source. It is a safe, oxygen-rich haven for those who can hold on. To access this abundant haven, these fishes have undergone incredible evolutionary changes. Morphologically, their bodies become dorsoventrally flattened, meaning they look like they have been pressed flat from top to bottom. Anatomically, they develop specialized adhesive organs, such as suction discs on their bellies or modified fins that act like friction pads. Physiologically, they have a drastically reduced swim bladder, which prevents them from floating up into the dangerous fast currents. Together, these adaptations allow them to navigate torrential waters safely. Before we look at the math, let us understand the physical forces these fishes are fighting against. When water flows over a solid object, it exerts a pushing force known as hydrodynamic drag. This is the exact same force you feel when you stick your hand out the window of a moving car. For a fish in a mountain stream, this drag force is constant and potentially lethal. Evolution has turned these fishes into masters of fluid dynamics, allowing them to minimize this pushing force through structural engineering. This brings us to the fundamental fluid dynamics equation for drag force. The drag force, measured in newtons, depends on several factors. The density of the water remains relatively constant. The velocity of the flowing water is squared, meaning even a tiny increase in water speed causes a massive increase in drag. The drag coefficient represents how streamlined the fish is. Finally, the frontal cross-sectional area is the amount of surface directly facing the water. By flattening their bodies, hill stream fishes drastically reduce both their frontal area and their drag coefficient. Let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. Imagine a normal, bulky river fish facing a torrential current of 3 meters per second. The water density is 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter. This normal fish has a drag coefficient of 0.4 and a frontal area of 0.01 square meters. We plug these given values into our hydrodynamic drag equation. By multiplying 1/2 times the density times the velocity squared times the drag coefficient and area, we find the total pushing force. The final answer is 18 newtons, an overwhelming force for a small fish. Now that we have calculated the baseline struggle of an unadapted fish, let us prove the mathematical advantage of the hill stream loach. We are setting up the exact same equation, but substituting the loach's highly optimized biological parameters. The water density and velocity remain exactly the same. However, the loach has a streamlined drag coefficient of 0.1 and a drastically reduced frontal area of 0.002 square meters. We substitute these new values into the drag equation to see how these small biological changes impact the physical forces. Continuing our derivation, we calculate the final result for the adapted loach. The math reveals a drag force of only 0.9 newtons. When we compare this to the 18 newtons experienced by the normal fish, we see that the loach has reduced the physical force pushing against it by a staggering factor of 20. This mathematical proof perfectly explains why hillstream fishes have evolved their unique flattened body shapes. It is not just a random trait. It is a direct mathematical necessity for surviving the extreme velocity of mountain torrents. Reducing drag is only half the battle. This brings us to the mechanics of adhesion. Even with a perfectly flattened body, the relentless water current will eventually push a fish downstream if it is not physically holding on to something. To solve this, these fishes have evolved remarkable adhesive organs. They use specialized suction discs on their bellies or heavily ridged friction pads on their fins. These organs work by exploiting the physics of pressure differences, allowing the fish to essentially vacuum seal themselves to smooth, algae-covered rocks. Let us look at the mathematical formula that governs this vacuum seal. The total holding force, or suction force, is measured in newtons. This gripping strength depends entirely on two variables. First is the pressure difference between the inside of the fish's suction cup and the surrounding water, measured in pascals. Second is the surface area of the adhesive pad in contact with the rock. If the fish increases the area of its pad or creates a stronger vacuum pressure, its ability to resist the water current increases proportionally. This simple relationship dictates their survival. Before we derive the biological limits, let us set up a practical scenario. Imagine a hill stream catfish trying to rest on a rock. The water current is pushing against it with a residual drag force of 2.5 newtons. To avoid being swept away, the catfish must generate a section force exactly equal to this drag. The fish's muscles can create a pressure difference of 5,000 pascals. We need to find the minimum surface area the suction cup must have. We set our suction force to 2.5 newtons, ready to solve for the area. To find the exact biological dimensions required, we must algebraically rearrange our formula. We divide the required holding force by the pressure difference to isolate the area variable. This shows that the required area is directly proportional to the force needed and inversely proportional to the vacuum generated. Substituting 2.5 newtons and 5,000 pascals, we get 0.0005 square meters, or 5 square centimeters. This proves that physical environmental forces directly dictate the anatomical size of animal organs, bridging abstract physics and tangible biology. Let us visualize everything we have just calculated in this diagram. You are looking at a cross-section of a hill stream fish anchored to a rock. The blue arrows represent the high-velocity water current rushing over the fish's flattened body. The red arrow pointing backward represents the hydrodynamic drag force trying to push the fish downstream. Counteracting this is the green arrow pointing downward, representing the suction force generated by the adhesive pad on its belly. This diagram beautifully illustrates the delicate balance of physical forces that the fish must maintain to survive in the torrent. We have covered the incredible evolutionary journey of hill stream fishes. Let us review the key takeaways. First, they develop dorso-ventrally flattened bodies to mathematically minimize their frontal area and drag coefficient. Second, they utilize the physics of pressure differentials through specialized suction discs to anchor securely to the riverbed. Finally, by reducing their swim bladders, they eliminate unwanted buoyancy. Together, these morphological, anatomical, and physiological adaptations transform a vulnerable fish into an unstoppable master of the mountain streams. You now understand both the biology and the physics of their survival.